Good morning, and welcome back to Who Am I? That space where every day we come into this question. It's a worthy question, worth asking 100 times every day, because quite frankly, there's a lot to us. And we're going to be examining this question from the standpoint of source energy. That's the frame, because there's two prongs to this understanding. One is on a personal level. When you understand the way these energies move, you can work your life to be way more effective and successful and satisfying. And on the other hand, we collectively, as human beings, can make it to the other side of this little problem that we're having on planet Earth right now. This problem that amounts to things like, so I say the litany every day. I don't mean to grind it into the ground at all, but I do want to remind us that as good as your life is, collectively we do have a couple of issues we need to work out. If you're having a great life and you're focusing on fabulous things, good for you. You're doing your part in this world. If you are carrying negative energy around and not transmuting it into an understanding of who we really are and what's really going on, then you might be a little piece of the air quotes problem, but a little understanding of this is going to go a long way in helping us all to get to where collectively we want to go. So who am I? Who am I? Who am I as a biotechnology? Who am I as a powerful creator? Who am I as source energy? Who am I as the quantum field? Who am I as the holographic universe that we are? That I am, that we are. It's both. It's really cool. We're going to discuss the shape of things, the shape of reality, how thoughts turn to things, how to understand the things going on around you, and the behavior of your neighbors, and the meaning of your history, and how to get out of the pickle that humanity finds himself in. Where did that come from? Who is humanity? Where did they come from? Because, I don't think that we are quite completely a naturally occurring species. It is my belief that we have been genetically modified. And even if you don't believe that our configuration was genetically modified intentionally by an extraterrestrial being some 200,000 years ago, which is what I think it is, the fact of the matter is our design took a jump. And it took it genetically, and you can see it in the genetic readout, and whether that somebody tweaked us intentionally, I guess, or whether or whether this genetic modification just accidentally happened out of thin air, which, if you have to believe that, go ahead and do it. But our configuration is what it is, and the result is what it is, and it's all very interesting because that's who we are. This is our design, and we should know the magnificent creatures that we have been born into. And we should know who we are. We should know how our equipment functions. It really is important. It really is important. It's important to all of us, and it's important to each of us individually to understand our divine autonomy, and as well as our divine, I've been trying to think of the right word for this. So we have this divine autonomy. There is a divinity to our individuality. There is I'll have to work on this description, but it is the word I have come up with to describe this is divine autonomy. But there's the other side of it is divine too, our divine wholeness, our divine oneness, our divine connection to each other, as opposed to our divine right and ability to spin from your own center, to call your own positive direction. You have absolute power to do that, especially armed with the actual shape of reality. How are things, how is reality emerging across the event horizon of the 0-point energy field, you could say? How does that really happen? What are you really made of? How truly are you connected to the rest of the field? How are you coming into being? What is your place on the board of eternal flux? I'll tell you what it is. You are the formless. You are the formless, making the form. That's who you are. So when you ask that question, who am I? Who am I? You can answer that question from so many different vantage points, and depending on which one of those you focus on, you're feeling different emotions. Depending on what vantage point you take on the grid and which way you're looking, that determines the emotion that is produced. So that's what your inner being, that's how you read your emotions. You don't take your emotions as some sort of existential read on the ultimate value of life or not. I mean, for crying out loud, life is. You are. It's good. You know, just assume that. And then if you're in a state of less than good, know that there's something wrong, because you are meant to be joyful. You are meant to be happy. You are meant to be effective. You're meant to be part of everything. You possess all of the information. You possess the whole universe from where you are. We are holographic, and that is important. It's important that we're holographic. It means that the whole universe is with you, is behind you, is with you, is you're dancing with it. There's a bigger pattern than you. Of course there is. Of course there is. Duh, duh, duh. And your negative emotions are not an indictment upon existence itself. It's an indictment upon the way that you are looking at the grid in this moment in time. If you are possessed by a negative emotion, it does not mean, it's not any existential read on the bigger picture. It's just an indictment upon the direction that you are, the stance that you have taken, and the direction and angle that you are looking at whatever it is on the grid that you're looking at. That's what it's an indictment of, because that angle is causing the negative emotion within your system. It's like you're cattle prodding your solar plexus, you know? You're doing this thing to yourself, to the flow of who you are. You are a flow of information. In your most pure essence, you are a continuum, a flow of intention, and a flow of information. And when you, small you, take an angle on something, on the ground, take an angle in your view that cuts back across what your inner being really knows. It's like when you take Perhaps I have gotten ahead of myself. Who am I? Who am I? I am consciousness. That's absolutely what I am. I am the quantum field, though. This quantum field that we need to understand for two reasons: personal reasons and then collective reasons. And we have vortexes of creation, both from our individual standpoint and our collective standpoint. Collectively, mankind has a vortex of creation he's been working on for a while. He's been step oneing for a few centuries and keeping track, by the way. That's what we call history. And this vortex of creation has been created by all of the experiences that he's had, all the wars that mankind has been through. We don't want war. There's not a person on the planet that wants war. We all want peace on earth, goodwill towards men. And yet we still keep creating war. Why is that? Why is that? Actually, I'm going to answer that. I know exactly why that is. First of all, we don't understand who we are. And when in not understanding who we are, we create systems between us as human beings that are not sustainable and are not accounting for the realities on the ground. The result is we create what I'm going to call Shiva energy in the field, in the quantum field, because we are a oneness. We are a holographic oneness, and there's a thing that we're doing here. Anyway, when we create things that are not sustainable and not acknowledging the realities on the ground, we create Shiva energy in the field. And this Shiva energy is picked up by people. It's in the form of things like aggrievements, belligerence, anxiety. There is chronic anxiety across the human biome right now. That is probably the most ubiquitous illness out there is anxiety. It's being caused by us not knowing who we are, by us not living out of who we are. That's the answer, knowing how it really works and then operating within the way it really works, and then think you are effective all of a sudden, and life clicks into place for you. The understanding of what you're looking at and your own misery and the misery of others, all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, is that what's causing it? That is what's causing it. Wow, I can use this greater understanding of who I am and what this is to make my life better, and then incidentally it's going to solve all of humanity's problems, and I'm going to tell you how. First of all, what we're really talking about is an understanding of source energy. What is it? And how does it function? There's all kinds of ways to look at it. There's not one simple, well, there's lots of simple, but all of them added together becomes kind of complex, you know? It's spin, first of all. The phenomenon itself, the one that's produced, that produces all appearance, all experience, all matter, all phenomenon, that is spin. Simple spin, nothing but spin. That's how come you have this image here, you know, the sacred spiral. And actually some very, very ancient petroglyphs, they start with that because it's important. Everything is spin. There's nothing but spin going on. So I promised you something. I said that you are form and formless. And you are. Actually, you are the formless. And as the formless, you give rise to the form. And that this dual system, that's what you are. That's what you are as a human being. That's what you are as a biological self. That's what you are in this universe. Even if you're a rock, you're that in a way, or you're part of it. You're part of the field participating in this one phenomenon, which is the formless giving rise to the form. That's what is happening all the time. And this form is becoming, and frankly, begoing, both. You know, it's becoming and begoing. It's eternal flux. It's okay. It's okay, although human beings have a hard time with it because there's nothing solid to hold on to. And that's okay, because you're not supposed to hold on to the solid. Hold on to the formless. And let the form fall where it may. And the way you do that with any kind of confidence is pay attention to how you feel. This world, this universe is vibrational. And you're actually going to be a lot better off by holding on to the feeling that you're interested in and let the forms around you just morph as they will. You know, it's everything's evolving, everything's expanding, everything is changing. Everything's becoming and begoing and becoming and begoing. And you are, how do you handle that? How do you handle that? Because everything changes. This thing this form that you adore, that you love, whatever it is, whether it's your own body or whether it's the body of a beloved one around you, you know, maybe it's a child or a spouse or a parent, you know, all of these things, as they change, as that parent ages and then they're going to die, as you get older and more rickety, as your child goes from this baby that you just have fallen in love with. And then you have this honeymoon effect that happens when you are in love. The whole world starts falling into better sync because you are in alignment. And that's actually a lot of what we need to talk about. Is the only problem that humanity has is being in alignment or not in alignment with his greater self. Understanding who this source energy self of you is, this overview, this broader perspective, this inner being, your vibrational aspect. Who are you? Who am I? And how does this whole system work? And how will an understanding of this lead us as humanity out of the wilderness of the problems that we have created for ourselves on planet Earth? And I'm going to tell you how that works too. Because we can we can learn through our better understanding of this. And the reason that the reason that I say this is because the mathematics have been done. The mathematics have been done, and that gives us the roadmap to the technologies that will lead us to freedom from ultimate and total freedom from fossil fuels. And that frees the planet from the burning of fossil fuels, which will immediately have an immediate positive effect on the ecosystems all across the planet. An immediate. That's the biggest footprint. When we talk about our carbon footprint, that carbon footprint is being created by our burning of fossil fuels. And we're going to be able to free ourselves from that as soon as we really take a deep dive into this understanding of who we are. Who am I? And how does source energy work? So that's kind of what, my intention as I come into this space every day. It is my intention to serve the greater good, to help raise our collective level of understanding about who we are, both individual and collective, because we are divinely both. You are divinely an individual. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, a lot of stuff that I say, in order to really understand what I'm talking about, you're going to kind of have to open up and be a little more fluid and flexible in the meaning of words, and just feel for the spirit, feel for the intention, feel for the how it all fits together, because that's actually the important part. It's everything that you know to be exists in the same universe. if you don't know how it works, this is what I've done all of my life. I call this whole consciousness thing that I'm going to be telling you right now, I call it addition consciousness. And this is how it works. If you came across it in any way, shape, or form, it has to add into the picture if you are pretending to understand the allness that you are looking at. If your analytical mind is trying to understand the allness that you are looking at, all things have to be added in there, even the ones you don't like and even the ones you don't understand. So how do you do that? If you don't know how to add it in, what do you do with it? You just put it in. I created a kind of a room in my consciousness, and I called it, this is the place where everything goes. You know, it's a sense is what it is. It's a sense. So I things happen. I experience things. I don't know what to do with that. It's like, wow, you just told me a story that and you look like you believe what you're saying, you know? So I don't know what to do with this, so I'm just going to put it in that room where everything goes. That room where everything goes. It's where all the different religions go. It's like, it's where everything goes. Actually, it's the room where everything goes. And the interesting thing is that as time goes by, as you live your life, those things in that room start clicking in with one another. You start getting into this state where there's kind of you can believe everything, because in that belief, I'm air quoting the word belief, it goes into this place where everything goes. Now, that does not mean, this is a different thing altogether from what you are focusing on. You can focus on, as a matter of fact, I would suggest that your focus be focused upon the positive. You put the center of that aperture of the focus of your mind, you put that in the positive. You always have to put that in the positive. So what do you do with negative? What do you do with the stuff you don't like? Well, you can't be naive. So you focus on what you like, but you got to know that you live in a world where human beings have committed holocausts. Holocausts almost beyond comprehension. How bad it can get in the way that human beings treat one another. Don't kid yourself. There is wickedness out there, but that wickedness is actually what I see it as. It's human beings in a state of ignorance, in a state of not alignment with their greater source, not knowing that they are source, not knowing that they actually, if they would pick them up, they hold all the cards. You know, you have every card that you need to play to make your life satisfying, peaceful, successful, successful in the sense of, you know, all of your dreams coming true. All the cards that you need to play, you possess them. But if you don't understand how the game plays, then you're not playing your cards, you're not manning your center, you're not getting into the center of your being and working your machinery. And then driving your cosmic light vehicle in the direction of your dreams. Your dreams come true, you're happily ever after. If you understood how it worked, you would know that you can do that. Anyone can do that. You got to pay attention to how you feel, because your feelings, your emotions are your vibrational inner being trying to guide you. And if you keep acting from a state of negative emotion, what you're basically doing is ignoring your guidance and going 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Now that's going to produce some stuff that in the end is going to create a bigger vortex of creation, you know. The bigger the problem, the bigger the solution, you know. So the bigger that you're making the problem, okay, well, at some point down the line, there is a benefit to be reaped, but as long as you're banging a negative drum, you're not going to be the one reaping it. It might be your children, or it might be your neighbor, or it might be somebody across the planet, or it might be somebody. It's not going to be you, though. As long as you're banging a negative drum, you will not be reaping the positive benefits that are right there for us to take. Oh my gosh. We have step one the crap out of this. Let's start understanding how this system works and lean into step three. Source has answered our prayers. Source has answered our prayers. But we have to get into the state of allowance so that we can reap the benefits of this magnificent creation that we have created. What am I saying? What am I saying? You've got to have faith. You've got to know that it is there in vibration. And now the Lord helps those that help themselves. You've got to go find that vibration and emanate that vibration, and the universe is going to respond. It's going to respond to you, and the positive momentum is going to grow, and your dreams are going to start getting more and more seeable, doable. Logical next step, unfolding. That's what we're looking for. Who am I? Who am I? So I've put this picture up a while ago. Didn't really describe how I use this visual. I see this as source energy mind on the left, wide open aperture, can see a lot more, is looking at a lot more. Still, this aperture is only looking at good, only looking at light, only looking at who you really are and what's really happening. And so when I say that, who you really are and what's really happening includes all of your atomic structure, everything as it has been flowing from the past to the now, and vibrationally what is becoming in what we would call the future, but what your vibrational self knows to be the present. So that's what the wide open aperture there, that's your source mind. That's you as the quantum field. That is you as the formless, giving rise to the form. That is you as that continuum of data and information and intention and desire that has been moving through time forever. That's you. And it is connected to a lot more than just your physical body. Just your physical body. It's connected to everything else. It's connected to you as the universe, you as the allness, you as the one with the whole field, you. That is what that mind is. Now you over there on the right, that's you as your individual meat vehicle, specific. I'm focused on, it's your boots on the ground, focused on the actual specific stuff, choosing and interacting with things in my specific vicinity. That's you as your earth probe, your Terra probe, right? That's what that is. And these two minds are both you. They are both you. Now, when you find yourself focusing too much on the meat side of the equation, you start getting chronic anxiety. As a matter of fact, when you do not understand that who you truly are is that big side, that source side, that's who you really are. And I say that because that's who you always are. It's who you are right now. It's who you were yesterday. It's who you'll be tomorrow. This meat self that you are, this is only yourself for just a minute in time. It is you, so it is true that you are your meat vehicle. But if that was all that you are, then no wonder you're feeling anxiety. But that isn't. Who you really are is this formless side giving rise to the form. And as we grasp and cling to the forms, the rolling manifestation, we get very nervous because it doesn't stay still. Nothing in this world, it's all in flux. It's all in flux. And you know what? That has to be okay because that's what it is. So what's the answer? Identify with the other side. Who am I? Who am I? Identify with your source side. And then you know that there is a part of you that is always here, that isn't going anywhere. There is death, in a way, is sort of misleading because Your form went away, but you're still there. You are a frequency. You're a broadcast frequency. You are a continuum. You are a continuum of information, of desire. Desire for what? More, better, love, connection, awareness of more. We are so complex. The system is so complex that the capacity to grow in awareness of this complex system is infinite. It's just so cool. And you are it. You are the field. And so I promised that we were going to talk a little bit about, I don't even know. There's so much to this. And the way that it connects to itself, it's the way it all adds up. And so how do you see how it all adds up? You got to add it all up. You can't be subtracting things that you don't want to add into the equation. Oh, I don't like Nazis, so I'm not going to add them in there. I'm only going to look at powder puffs and cotton candy, you know? You know those kind of positive people. They drive you nuts, you know, those simpering, naive, you know, I will only look at positive. And yet the world is erupting in war, and scarcity is the rule of many neighborhoods. You know, I live a good life. I've been at it for quite a few decades, and you know, we have built a fortress of peace and serenity here, and moderate abundance. You know, if my whole government goes down, then I got problems. We all got problems then, right? But it happens. It happens. People's governments come down. I actually don't think that our government's going to last forever. It doesn't have the mission statement it used to have, you know? Think of that Pledge of Allegiance. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It just doesn't feel that way anymore. And if we could get back to that, you know, that vision of clarity and unity, it might have a chance. You know, I'm not being seditious, I promise you, and I'm not advising insurrection. Lord knows I don't want. I'm living in a position where I'm much better off if the government stays in place. I'm not one of those disenfranchised, but I feel them out there. I know they're there. I feel my fellow human beings who are not in as good a place as I am. I believe that capability comes from our mirror neurons. We have mirror neurons in our brain. We might have them other places too, but in our brains we have mirror neurons, and the way they function is when we observe someone else experiencing something, these neurons fire in our brains as though it happened to us. This is part of our social being nature. It's why we can't get our noses out of each other's business. You know, why there's this subtle, through everyone's need to capitalize, there is this subtle urge. It's not an urge, what's the word? Pull for all of us to click into this collective self that we are. You know, there's all kinds of ways you can, there's basically 3 ways that you can capitalize. You can produce a product and sell it to people. You can actually, the internet gives you 3 ways to capitalize. This is how I think I see it. You have a service that you sell to people, a product that you sell to people, or you just capture their attention. You can capture attention and capitalize on that. If you can get millions of eyes look in your direction, there's all kinds of ways to monetize that through all kinds of platforms. So that's what it's come down to. And it's like humanity wants to click into an awareness of itself, because we are one morphogenetic field upon this planet. As humanity, we are. Now, as and that's an integral wholeness. You as an individual are also an integral wholeness. And I think I threw that in the wrong place. I don't know. I need this to flow from one concept to the other so that it all just blends right in and you understand what I'm talking about. Source energy, source energy. Who am I? Who am I? So Nassim Haramein's new paper, and there's a couple more people that co-authored this with him. So if you're listening to this, glance at your screen and take note of their names. I want to make sure everybody gets the credit. This was published back in September of 2023, just a few months ago, on the origin of mass and the nature of gravity. So this is where our mathematical understandings of this source energy, where the math has been done. And the first paper that Nassim published back in 2012 started this ball rolling. But this is the mathematical understandings of this is where our new technologies are going to come from. Our ability to plug directly into the source of all energy. You got to understand what this source energy is. You as the quantum field. What do I mean when I say the quantum field? People use that Q word all the time, and they pretend like they understand what they're talking about, but I don't think most of them do. It just kind of makes you sound smart. But think of the universe, the fabric of all of space-time, of everything that makes up the space, that makes up the matter, that makes up the fabric of existence, whatever that is. Think of it as being pixelated. It's pixelated. And all of those pixels are little frequencies. They're little, almost infinitely, it's not infinitely, but almost, it's as small as you can get given the laws and functions of physicality in this density. You take a packet of light, otherwise known as a photon, going at the speed of light, which is what packets of light do, and have it cross its own diameter and that length of time and the distance it took and all of that, whatever. It's a little frequency, and it's called a Planck. And these Plancks are solid pack, dense pack, all of them touching all across all of the universe. That's what the universe is made of. It's made up of Plancks. And these Plancks aren't really, they're little frequencies. They're little, like this teeny weeniest packet of energy. But then the whole space everywhere is this solid pack. Very, very dense. It's really dense down there at that level. This Planck field is really, really dense. Because, well, it's like, and they're small. So a proton is the mass at the center of all elements, right? All atoms, the mass at the center of an atom is a proton. And a proton is filled with Plancks. How many Plancks in a proton? Well, there's an awful lot. As a matter of fact, the number of Plancks in a proton kind of correlates to the amount of mass in the universe. It's really quite interesting the way that works. And here's a little diagram from Nassim's paper that's sort of showing you how that works. This is, well, I don't want to get off of this just yet. So if you took a Planck and grew it to the size of a grain of sand, now the proton that's full of Plancks would be the size of, from our sun to Alpha Centauri, that's the diameter of what a proton would be. Now, make it a sphere, fill it with sand, That's how many Plancks there are in a proton. Lots and lots and lots. And that proton's really, really small. So that Planck is almost unbelievably small. Really, really small. And the field all around you is solid pack those Plancks. The empty space around you isn't empty at all. It's full of these pixels. It's full of these Plancks. Why does that matter? It matters for a lot of reasons. It truly matters. Truly matters. In every sense of the word, this matters. Because source energy is everywhere. It's unbelievably energetic. And it's everywhere. The source of this. Now, conventional physics has kind of subtracted it all out as canceling itself out. But that's not really the right way to look at this. And the powers that be have not minded us continuing to cancel it all out, because the longer that we don't understand how source energy works, the longer they can keep burning their dirty ass fuel and killing the planet. Although it's not their intention to kill the planet, it's their intention to keep flying their Learjets and, sailing in their, billion-dollar yachts registered in the Cayman Islands kind of thing. The toys that we can create with the wealth that is going on the planet right now, but that wealth is coming from the burning of fossil fuels. And so it's like one step forward, two steps back, and it's not sustainable. And so, quite frankly, it's not going to sustain. And the wars centering around our quarreling and quibbling about this wealth is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's not going away. And the reason it is because of the way all these energies work. As long as we're relying on and continue to create and focus in directions that are not sustainable, we create Shiva energy, which erupts in the form of Vladimir Putin and, bullshit going on in Gaza from whatever. I'm not taking sides on any of this. Frankly, there is no enemy. There is no villain out there that you can point at. It's all us. It's all us. There's no us and them. It's all us. And so what is the enemy? The enemy is the polarity itself in the field. The polarity itself in the quantum field. It's this energy thing that we create when we don't understand who we are. Then we sort of create counter to what it is, and that creates this negative energy that it's because people are left out. They're left out of the wholeness. They're left out of the system. Everyone right now is being required to plug into the collective energy, the collective system of information flow and the flow of goods and services and information. It's run by the internet, which is like the nervous system of humanity with a capital H, us as a collective wholeness. Because we are a collective wholeness. We are a single morphogenetic field on this planet. We do not have to get out there with our signs saying, "We are one, everybody unite." Because we actually don't want to unite that way. We do not want lockstep and groupthink. That kind of unite is not what you want. You want a unification in spirit. In spirit only. In spirit only. Line up with your own inner being and then follow its impulses and let the greater source of us all, which is actually kind of a central spin, this sort of the center of the center of the center of the center of all the spins. There's this place where the spin is organizing us in beautiful harmonic forms. Tune into that and then do whatever your authenticity calls you to do. And it will be in alignment with the rest of the group. As a matter of fact, your desires will start lining up with the desires of the rest of the field. That's how it works. When you have So I'll tell you what my desire is. And every day. So I'm sorry if I'm going to get to the place where I don't feel like I have to say some of the things every day. but there are some ground things that have to be said every day so that people know what space I'm occupying until I get a following, which just like the people who listen to Abraham, they know what she's talking about before. She doesn't actually have to explain everything from the beginning every time, although she has a litany of several points that she always points out. We are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. You have an inner being, which is your broader perspective. That inner being is keeping track of all the desires that you have ever identified throughout your whole entire existence in this physical plane. It has kept track of them in the form of all of the, it's like it has marked your desire, the desire itself, and then where it tags to the actual field of reality. That's all that it has been taking note of. Your desire, recording what you want, and it exists in this vortex of creation that you have created. Now, the way to let that vortex of creation flow naturally into your experience so that you can walk directly to your dreams and your desires. You know, your dreams come true and you're happily ever after and all that. That which you have identified that you want. You like music, you like sports, you like, you know, speed, you like action, you like peace, you like nature. What do you like? What your inner being's been marking it in this vortex of creation, and how you get that vortex to come into your experience, or how you get into the vortex. Or I understand how Abraham has had problems with language trying to express this. How you do that is you get into a particular frequency, a spirit of allowance, of faith, of knowing that this universe is working in your favor. Evolution is happening. Expansion is happening. You are expanding. Things are becoming more. It is getting better. Oh my gosh. If you had been a person living through the last 60 years, taking note of what was going on and filing everything into this place where everything goes, and then realizing, looking around you now and seeing the difference between where we are now and where we used to be, it would be absolutely undeniable that things are getting better. And yet there is this thing that is still plaguing us. And what's plaguing us is we don't know who we are, and we are still capable of vortices of chaos big enough to knock down that which we have built. And the problem is we keep building these things that are not sustainable. They are not in harmonics with the rest of the field around us. And so at the same time, there's this rumble of Shiva energy, these demons we create that are carried in by fellow human beings. And that's why we turn and look at the fellow human beings who are operating under this wicked energy, and we blame them individually, and that's not what the problem is. It's a quantum field problem. It's a quantum phenomenon, and each and every one of us has a lot of individual power that we're not taking control of. We're not taking ownership of it through our not understanding who we are and how this works, you know? And I would like to see us get to a place where we have peace on earth, goodwill towards men, where we are spending all of our time doing all kinds of joyous things. Growing food, that's so much fun, growing food. But you know, the way we're doing it right now, using the energy of fossil fuel to create, you know, less and less nourishing versions of, and less sustainable versions of, you know, just calories to keep us all going another day. That kind of agriculture is not satisfying. And it's not in alignment. It's not in alignment with who we are. And I guarantee you that everywhere along the step, every step along the way of that system of agricultural production there's all kinds of suffering and places where human beings are not paying attention to how they feel, and they are muscling through anyway. They're soldiering on, you know. that goes in contrary to the laws of the universe and how your inner being is trying to guide us. Our inner beings are all trying to guide us to a better way of being. Understanding source energy is the first thing. Don't blame yourself. If you happen to be working in the oil industry or something right now, this isn't personal. None of this is personal. You can find your way out of it. We can all find our way out of it. And just think of yourself, you're sort of like it's 1895, and you are the king of buggy whip makers, and you have made yourself a solid living on the making of buggy whips. I don't know why buggy whips have become the iconic example of this anachronism, but so you are the king of buggy whips, and it's 1805, and your world is getting ready to change. Now you can grasp and cling to the world that is on its way out, or you can recognize on the horizon that which is coming into being. Oh, that is the perfect segue to it. I hope you've taken the time to look at any of these slides from the mathematical paper that I've put up and for yourself, because I haven't really explained them. Sorry about that. But this is a natural segue into the notion of cymatics. And cymatics is the study of vibration, how vibration gives rise to form. That's basically what the study is, how vibration gives rise to form. Now this right here is digital cymatic patterns, and they've got some sort of a digital system. You pipe different frequencies into this, and it produces these different digital representations of the frequency. So basically it's vibration giving rise to form, right? Well, it gets more down in the weeds, down in the trenches than that. Here we go. This is how the study was invented, discovered. I don't know. Hans Jenny, the father of cymatics, he took a metal plate, and then he would take a granular medium. Now you can see they've used a black plate and a light colored granular medium, and that allows you to see the pattern a lot more clearly. And you pipe a frequency through the plate, and lo and behold, a pattern emerges in the granular medium resting on top of the plate. That is vibration giving rise to form and pattern. Now in the upper right and lower left, both of those that's examples of that. In the upper left and lower right, you can see cymatic patterns appearing in biological beings in the world around us. This is how, as well as the snowflakes, and I believe that upper one is that looks like an orbital pattern of some celestial object. Something somebody made with a spirograph. I don't know what that is, but I know what the other ones are. And what it is demonstrating is how vibration gives rise to form. And so as vibration in the universe around us changes, shifts, the universe is alive, people. It's alive. And it's aware. And actually, I haven't mentioned how it's aware. I've said that it's holographic. How is it holographic? I guess this is something I need to say briefly every day. How is the universe holographic? Well, remember we talked about this pixelated Planck field that is space-time, right? Well, all of those Plancks are touching one another. They are all in vibrational communion with one another. And that's actually what source energy is. It's all across the Planck field, across the multiverses. All of those frequencies are, what's the word? Interfering with one another. They're all. I said it was holographic. How you create a hologram in a conventional way. You take a laser beam and you split it into two beams, redirect one by a set of mirrors to a location, redirect the other to an object, scan the object, then redirect the beam again to meet the first one in that location. When those two beams hit each other, all of the information of the object scanned is now all across the field. And the reason that it is through an interference pattern. When the beam with the information of the object, say an apple or some such, meets the other one that didn't have it, didn't really have anything, it was just a laser of light. When they touch each other, when they interfere with one another at the new point, when they meet right there, all of the information gets scattered across all the field. And now all of the information of the apple is everywhere. Or the object, that's the object I scanned in my mind, was an apple. So all of the information of that apple is everywhere in that interference pattern now. Well, that's what the universe is doing across all the Planck field. All of it's touching and all of it's interacting with one another. That's what source energy is. It's all of it interacting with all of it all the time. We are an allness. We just are. And you know what? That matters. That holographic nature that you are, it matters. It means all the universe is with you all the time. It knows who you are. It knows where you are. It knows what you think. It knows. As a matter of fact, that source energy you that I was illustrating with this picture, right? The source energy mind on the left, and then your specific meat vehicle human mind over there on the right. That that source aspect of you is its intentions and its knowing and its what it's thinking about and what it's looking at is way bigger than just you and your little body. You in your individual physical body. But don't think of it, its allness isn't other than you. The fact is that your consciousness can click back and forth, can toggle back and forth. You can click into universal consciousness, through this, through being able to toggle that. There's a reason they call it universal consciousness, because all of us, we're all there. All of us are there. And you're there. But your little mind might be so busy looking at bullshit, nonsense, negative crap that doesn't matter at all to anybody. And so you're missing the ticket into universal consciousness, you know? You're there. Part of you is that your source energy aspect is there, but your little mind might be someplace completely else. And that's a state of misalignment. That's where your smaller self is not taking its wisdom and knowledge and knowing and flow from its broader perspective. It's like you're running the maze, and part of you knows how to run the maze, would help you run that maze, but you're refusing to listen to any of its guidance, and you persist in walking in the wrong directions. And it's actually more of a labyrinth than a maze. It's a labyrinth, and there's all kinds of treasures and pitfalls all over the place. That's actually that's what we're living. It's a labyrinth. But you have all of the tools that you need. You just need to understand how to use them. Your inner being is trying to guide you. It's not trying to guide you to a specific thing. You've got to choose the specific. It's trying to guide you to a spirit. I have come to recognize that I don't really care how it turns out, as long as the spirit is what I want it to be. And what is that spirit? That spirit of, well, everything I want is in terms of spirits. Freedom, expansion, joy, enthusiasm, clarity, abundance. You know, I don't care what the specifics are, but it turns out as a human being, you're expected to choose some specifics, you know? kind of bums me out. I like to stay general. I love the general, but I've been forced to choose some specifics. And part of that has guided me into this space, doing these recordings every day. I think it's the allness calling me to plug into the allness. I think we all have this pull. We are all one. We are divinely one thing. But at the same time that you are divinely one with this allness, with this eternal aspect of yourself, your little piece of the quantum field that is in total concert with all the rest of the field, that part of you, though you are that allness, you are absolutely, divinely an autonomous individual. And it is the play of those two things that is your life. And so, like I said earlier, we do not want the lockstep and the groupthink. We want people to lock into, actually, don't line up with each other. Do not line up with each other. Line up with your inner being. That's the answer. And follow its guidance. Try to think thoughts that are in alignment with it. It doesn't have to be specifically any specific thought. It's line up with the spirit of what your inner being, resonate with the resonant frequencies of your inner being, and you'll have it. Then just go out and be authentically you from that place of inner alignment, and be your diverse self. Be your authentic, diverse self. Now, there are places you might be trying to be your authentic, diverse self where the quantum field around you is very heavily moving or existent in a group pattern that's trying to disallow you. Say you live in North Korea, for instance, or the authoritarian psychosis pattern is something that discourages individual authenticity. But I wouldn't worry about that. As a matter of fact, I really wouldn't worry about that. The only thing you really need to worry about, and that isn't even worry, just line your two beings up. Pay attention to how you feel. And don't let yourself think thoughts that feel bad. Learn how the momentum works and learn how to catch it earlier so that you can stop it and redirect your thought into a positive momentum track, and then let that train start going. What's happening is anytime you think a negative thought, what you're doing is you're sort of zapping your forward momentum with I think of it as you're zapping yourself in the solar plexus with a cattle prod. And it causes that negative sensation you're calling negative emotion, and it stops your forward momentum, by the way. Anytime that you stop and start railing against the world, whether you're criticizing someone else, or whether you're criticizing yourself, or whether you're feeling discouraged or frustrated or jealous or blameful or angry or frightened, any of those feelings, what you're doing to yourself, those feelings are being generated by thoughts that you are taking. And then the thoughts, as you take them, the frequency that they are is such a disempowering frequency. That's the you cattle prodding yourself in the solar plexus. And the whole thing results in, positive trains going one way, negative trains going the other way, and you feel bad and you aren't going anywhere. That's what that is. And if you're a student of law of attraction, you've already been studying this and you understand how this works. But the understanding of this ripples out way farther than just a simple understanding of the law of attraction, which, by the way, is a very complex understanding. I don't mean to... You could spend your entire life and career doing nothing but looking at only law of attraction, That which is likened to itself is drawn, and understanding what Esther's talking about with this vortex of creation, and pay attention to how you feel, and steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, you ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3, you get into a state of allowance, knowing that things are always working out for you. So look for the positive, look for where things are shaking out. And step 4, you get good at step 3. Step 5, you aren't in you're back in step 1, and you're not mad at yourself for being in a state of negative emotion, because you understand what it means to be human and that it's okay, and you can step outside of that negative emotion and transmute it into really positive information about that your negative emotion is just your reflection of how you're doing vibrationally, and you want to be doing good vibration stuff, because feeling those positive vibrations and following them is your inner being guiding you through the labyrinth, past the demons, into the treasure room, that kind of stuff. You don't have to take any of this stuff personally. But also, our better understanding of this is going to lead us directly to freedom from fossil fuels. Because that's really what the problem is on planet Earth. I haven't given you the litany of our troubles. I started to early on, didn't ever do it. There's Garbage Island. There's too much carbon in the atmosphere. There's the acidification of the oceans. There's the growing deserts. There's at least 1 billion souls upon this planet living really marginal and suffering lives in a planet and a system that could support unlimited abundance. So that's really quite awful that that's what's happening. And through my mirror neurons, I have a sense of their suffering. And so even though I can direct my focus into positive ways, and I can know that actually all is well, and that things are working out for us, and that we can turn to the positive and make this work, still I feel they're suffering, because I have these mirror neurons, and I don't actually like living a life of abundance on a planet of scarcity. That doesn't feel right to me, and it shouldn't feel right to you either. I know that human beings are good. And it doesn't even matter if you're a bad one, you're still good. And it's us, we are a collective. We are a collective. We don't even have to force that issue. As a matter of fact, we get really awful when we try to force that issue. Let's all be one. Let's all act together. No, let's don't do that. Let's all act in our authentic diversity, plugged into a common spirit that it is trying to organize us in harmonic, synergistic, synchronic, symphonic, directions, in a flow, and we can all be. The system is designed to support infinite abundance. Even I don't mean abundance, but yes, infinite abundance, infinite diversity, even within the single morphogenetic field of humanity. Humanity itself can express in an infinite number of sustainable, beautiful, authentic ways. And the key to that is, don't line up with each other, line up with your inner being. Line up with your source energy aspect, that aspect of you that is spinning with everything, that knows where all your stuff is, and knows that, because your alignment is all about timing. When you are in alignment with yourself, then your timing with what you want gets way, way better, because your inner being knows where what you want is, and at what point in time it's going to circle around and meet you at what points. And so following its impulses leads you to the sustaining rendezvous, the ones that are with people that you like in fun ways. If you are out of alignment with your inner being and your broader perspective, then and you're plugged into the orneriness going on out there because you are angry and acting out of your anger. You're hurt and acting out of your hurt. You're going to rendezvous with things that resonate with that. You're going to have chaotic rendezvous with upsetting and troubling things, and more are you going to believe that the universe is out to get you. When you are determined to go against the way these energies flow, the universe is going to feel very heartless and impersonal to you. Like, it does not care about you specifically. And in a way, your defiance of the energies is going to get you that. The truth is, the universe actually does care. But you got to plug into that aspect before that's really part of your experience. You have all the power. You have all the power to rendezvous with whatever it is you want to. Do you want to rendezvous with love, with kindness, with clarity, with joy, with good ideas, with interesting people, with better and better? Do you want that, or do you want to just hang out with the thugs on your street corner and plan on how to knock over the local 7-Eleven, because you can rendezvous with that too? It all has to do with which energies you're plugging into, with taking control of your divine autonomy, your ability to to build a momentum from where you are and move in the direction of that which you want. I'm sort of devolving. I can feel that. Let's go back to... let's make sure that I'm done with this. So this is Nassim's paper, right? The full abstract, in case you're interested. This was just, I liked this picture. This is showing mathematically how the Planck field of every proton relates. There's a relationship between that and all of the protons in all of the universe. That's interesting. And then this one is showing how, as matter emerges across, I call it across the event horizon because there's reasons why I say it that way, but as matter is emerging from the quantum field, from 0 point energy, goes from being a Planck to being a proton, what's happened is a whole bunch of Plancks have organized in spin to make that proton. So the emergence of matter, the spin is baked into the cake, and so is the gravity. And so the mathematical understanding of this will bring us directly to a fuller understanding of gravity, and a direct line from that to us having gravity control, and us humanity having a star drive. And when I say humanity having a star drive, I don't just mean the military arm of my government having a star drive. That's not what I mean. I don't actually believe that system will be in place quite in that same exact way, or the spirit of it is going to have to change. Because it doesn't support that it doesn't support an understanding of who we are, actually. So I haven't talked about this morning. I usually do. I always do. I like to go through all of my slides at least once every single morning. And any of you who have listened to this a bunch of times, and I don't know any of you who have, a couple of you have listened to a couple of them. I don't know if any of you have listened to many of them, but forgive me if you've heard this before. But so this is a general understanding of the configuration of our physical mind system, right? So that small aperture physical mind, this is me and my specific physical body aspect. That's this system right here. This is how it works. You have the lower brains, you have the lizard brain, you have your standard mammalian brain, which is largely hormonal, and hormones causing, the hormones of pregnancy causing your attachment to your infant, and that's your maternal love. But it is love. You feel love. I am sure that the mother squirrel feels love for her baby. Now, it may not be all kinds of complex, and it may be largely hormonally driven, but she feels love for her baby. Mama cow feels love for her baby, ripped out of her arms to be made into veal. Oh, God, don't get me started. All right, so anyway, but human beings have this other layer. It's an outer layer that's sort of, it's like an overview mind. It's your meat vehicle's version of your broader perspective. And that's the mind that's taking thoughts that either resonate or do not resonate with the mind of your source being, your inner being. And that's the frequency resonance or disparities is what's causing your emotions. It's what's causing you to feel either negative emotion or, positive emotion, maybe really strong positive emotion, because you're thinking thoughts that are very resonant with the kinds of things that your inner being is thinking about. Your inner being is thinking about the love and connection and well-being of us all, and where we actually are in the Planck field. How we're moving, where we've been, blah, blah. It knows where our blood is flowing. It knows what our cells are up to. It knows everything. So what's interesting about this, the neocortex, which is your overview mind, it gives you control of your emotions because it gives you a step back. And maybe you don't just knee-jerk to that hormonal, feeling of threat because you recognize, oh, that's your neighbor and she's got dementia and she's so sweet, but she doesn't know what she's doing. So, don't just run out and shoot her. Anyway, your neocortex mind, 76% of this comes from human chromosome number 2. And human chromosome number 2 is a very interesting chromosome. It happens to be 2 other chromosomes fused together, telomere to telomere, with the redundancies on both sides of this fusion clipped away. We know this because few geneticists, is it a couple? How many? I don't know how many. You have to click on this in order to see the credits. Authors, info, and affiliations. Oh no, I see the authors. Baldini, Ward, and Wells. That's who published this back in 1991. They studied this chromosome and they determined that this is what it is. It's an ancestral telomere to telomere fusion. That's what human chromosome number 2 is. This is the full abstract, and look at what they conclude. We conclude that this thing that they've been describing through the whole paper, and they describe it up there in the abstract, it's all in geneticist speak. This is the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. It's a open source. I mean, anybody can go look at this. It's really easy to find. The volume was, it was published in October of 1991, and it's the 40th article in. It's called Origin of Human Chromosome 2 and Ancestral Telomere to Telomere Fusion. And look what they're concluding. We conclude that this is an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Wow. 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 That one just blows me away. It just blows me away. Some people read that sentence and they just go like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, fine. But I can't get over this sentence, because what it's saying is that this is what made us human. This is also why we're not going to find a missing link. This is the missing link. This is what took us from our ape ancestors to being human beings. And the interesting thing is that it's implying genetic modification. And it would have happened approximately 200,000 years ago. Whenever it is that our conventional scientists studying a lot of things, they're really good. They're very good at what they're studying. And they determined, when modern, they call it anatomically modern humans now. They used to call it Cro-Magnon man, but they don't use that term anymore. I'm kind of glad they don't, although I use it every day by saying that. It's hard to pronounce, Cro-Magnon man. I'm not even sure if that's the way you pronounce it. But it's anatomically modern humans, and they appeared on the planet, and this is what made us human. This is what gave us the neocortex. This is what gave us the human mind, the human ability to think in any direction. We are not just kind of locked into source impulse. We have this overview mind that allows us to think our own thoughts and go all kinds of different directions. Now, if you might think that this telomere to telomere fusion with redundancies on both sides clipped away to stabilize the fusion, and then the end product of this fusion is the human neocortex, you may find a way to imagine that that was just accidental or incremental Darwinian evolutionary processes, but it wasn't. It happened all of a sudden. This is what this is. It was a fusion of two ape chromosomes make human chromosome number 2. Gives rise to the neocortex. And the interesting thing, I think the clincher on this one is that this is what gives us the ability to sing to the quantum field with the volume that we can sing to it with. Human beings are the most amazing creation machines that the universe has ever seen. I say that, and there might be actually ones that are even better than us. But we are amazing. We are amazing. We are the Lamborghinis of the universe. Consciousness Lamborghini, except for it's more than that. I think we're driving starships. We are driving starships of consciousness through the multiverse. It's absolutely breathtaking and amazing. And the difference between us and others is that so we possess a consciousness that can know. Actually, I said that in the wrong way, in the wrong place. Never mind. But we are amazing. We are driving these amazing consciousness machines. We are also the playful otters of the universe. I don't want to get too matter-of-fact and functional and efficient and impersonal, because frankly, this universe is made of joy. Joy and freedom and expansion are your 3 basic impulses coming from your source energy side. Freedom, joy, expansion. That's what your inner being is all about. And all of your impulses coming from your source energy side are rooted in those 3 impulses. Freedom, you are free. You are free, and your divine autonomy gives you a freedom that if you would know it and claim it, there is nothing that you could not do. Nothing at all. However, the things that you want to do will need to be in harmony with what Source wants. And Source wants that freedom and joy and clarity and abundance and expansion. Well, the expansion is inevitable. But it wants all that other stuff for all of us as an allness, not just you personally. So if your ideas are centered very, very yourself-centric, so you're just thinking about how can I, in my little limited way, make my own personal fortune, my own selfish little personal fortune. Well, from that impulse, you're not going to get the kind of resonant cooperative componency that you might if your desires were bigger than that, you know, included the desires of others more than that. If all you want is your own personal, selfish whatever, then you might be thinking in terms of, knocking over your local 7-Eleven, and you aren't going to get a lot of cooperation from many human beings around you for that. However, if your desire is peace on earth, goodwill to all human beings, if your desire is freedom from fossil fuels, well, that's going to get you some enemies, I'll tell you, on the one hand. But I push back against no one. I don't push back against, not specifically against the oligarchs that run the energy programs. We're not going to get anywhere by pushing against anything. This is going to be a kind of divine non-resistance, sort of taking Gandhi's idea, only taking it even farther, taking it all the way out. Resistance to nothing. Don't resist anything. I discovered a number of years ago, about 8 years ago, I joined a resistance that I noticed how the energies were working. It took me about a year to figure it out. Maybe a little longer, but I realized very deeply that our resistance was fueling the other side. It was giving power to the negative side. Our enemy is actually not any individual. Not a single individual out there is your enemy. There is no enemy. There is no us and them. There is only us. There is only us. And the enemy is the polarity in the field. I might have said that already this morning. It was over an hour ago. What do I know? So let's see where we are and where my impulses are leading me. I don't think I've shown this. This is your basic emotional guidance scale. This is telling you how far away or how close to resonance with your inner being, your source energy mind, you are. If you are in a strong state of negative emotion, you are not in alignment with your inner being, who is never in a state of negative emotion, but always knowing your worth, your value, your place, your continuum, your intentions, your desires, knows all of that. That is your cosmic vibrational anatomy, in touch with all the universe. Of course it knows. And you, small, specific, human mind you can take any thought you want. These thoughts have momentum. You stay on any thought and the law of attraction will start handing you more. So you get on a negative train and try to get to the bottom of negative stuff. I promise you, there is no bottom. There's no bottom. You'll just end up confirming all the wickedness that you're imagining in your mind, because it's true. We live in a world of extreme wickedness, but not really. Not really. That's just the appearance, because of us not knowing who we are, and us not being in alignment with who we really are, and not understanding how the demons are created, how the Shiva energy comes, how it comes up in the field, how the polarity itself is the enemy. It's Wetiko, it's authoritarian psychosis, it's autonomous complexes, if you're a student of Jung. It's all kinds of ways you can describe this, but it all comes down to us not understanding who we are, not getting into alignment with who we really are, not following the guidance from our broader perspective, our vibrational broader perspective, in concert and touch and consciousness with all the rest of the universe, with the allness. You are an allness. You are your specific small being, and you are that greater being that includes us all. You are the allness. You are the allness. You are the oneness. You are the smallness. You are the allness. You are the smallness. You are both of them. And you need to get those two minds into concert with one another. And then everything you look at in specifics in your material world can start to, it all starts to make sense. You know which way to move. Things start really working out for you. That's the reason we do this. So this is the basic scale. This is somebody else's artistic interpretation of this scale. This is somebody else's, the emotional guidance scale. Another way to look at it is this. It's all about states of being. Where you are flying your starship, your cosmic, universal, vibrational starship, continuum being, source energy aspect. The direction that you're flying your starship is determined by what state of being you are in at any given time. So my advice to you is, if you are in a state of negative emotion, this is my advice. This was my advice to my children, although I don't know how well they heard it when I started saying it, but I think they understand it now for sure when I say it. When you're in a state of negative emotion, sit on your hands. Do not act. Let it play out not in action, not in physicality. You'll just make a mess that you'll be obliged to go follow around after and clean up. Now, that's easier said than done, because when you get into a state of negative emotion, when you're in that state, you don't care. You don't effing care, as a matter of fact. You don't care what you destroy, what you knock down. So good luck with that once you've entered that state of negative emotion. But the idea is to pull yourself out of it and then try to find a positive momentum and get that train going. That's the idea. And how do you do it? Go general. So the problem is that you're in a state of negative emotion and you are undoubtedly looking at something specific. And you're looking at something specific that you don't like. What are you looking at? You might be looking at the location in space where your deceased loved one used to occupy. That might be what you're looking at. And in looking at that, you're feeling a state of negative emotion, because that really doesn't feel good to look right where they used to be. You know, that place at the dinner table, or that place next to you in bed, or that place in the high chair. Maybe it was that kind of a tragedy. You know? You're looking at where they used to be, and you're thinking about how they are not there. And that thought, that direction, that way of looking at it feels really bad to you. First of all, your inner being is not doing that. Your inner being knows where your loved one is. And in knowing where your loved one isn't the slightest bit concerned about where they aren't. You know? That's what your inner being knows. Your inner being knows where your loved one is. And if you would tap into your inner being, you could know where your loved one is too. How do you tap in? Well, you can't keep banging that negative drum. You can't keep looking at that absent end of the stick. You can't keep focusing your mind and your thoughts in that direction. And every time you focus your mind in that direction, it feels bad to you. You think it feels bad to you because they're gone. But it really feels bad to you. The feeling that you're getting is coming from you zapping yourself in the solar plexus. You're taking a contrary stance to what your inner being knows to be true about the situation. You are all over the map about what you think you know, or what you might know, or what you believe, but your inner being knows what's true, knows where all your atoms are, knows how your protons are moving, knows how everything else is moving, knows what your intentions for everything have been since the beginning of time. It knows you. And it also knows where your loved one is and is in concert with their frequency even now. And so when you take thoughts focusing in opposite directions, it's the fact that your thought doesn't resonate with your inner being. That's why it feels bad. Not because it's true, but because it doesn't resonate with the thought your inner being has. Your inner being is thinking all kinds of stuff that's true. And all of that feels good. So pay attention to how you feel. How does this specific negative to general positive to specific positive, how would that work? Let's do one in a really general way. You're looking at something specific negative, and it's bumming you out. Pull out to the general. You can pull out from looking at all the specific details of the specific thing that you hate, that you despise, that you're cattle prodding yourself with by looking at it in this way. You pull out to the general by saying something like, something generally negative, just generally negative. Life sucks. Just chalk this up to life sucks. Sometimes life sucks. Go from life sucks to, well, I guess sometimes it sucks. Now you could go to a general positive. Sometimes it doesn't suck, though. And then a specific positive. Yeah, when I think about this thing over here, man, my heart just comes to life. And now you're off on a specific positive. That was a very, very general example of how to do that. The more momentum that any of your thoughts have, the harder it is to pull out of them. But still, the answer is always pull from a specific, pull out to the general. That reduces the momentum. Pulling out to the general reduces the momentum. And so now you've reduced the momentum of your negative stream. Now you can maybe make the leap from a general negative to a general positive. Not a specific positive. You're not there yet. But get to that general positive. Now from that standpoint, now look around. What can you see? Find something to look at that pleases you, and now focus in on that, and now your positive momentum should start to ensue. Now, I have a problem anytime that I try to dial in very specifically on specific excessively material things, because material things don't excite me quite the same, although I definitely enjoy comfort. I enjoy abundance. I love a good meal. I love a comfortable hotel. I love a vehicle that you can depend on not breaking down. God knows, in my 20s, I drove some pieces of crap held together with baling wire and bubble gum that I couldn't trust going 2 miles without them breaking down. I don't want to do that anymore. That was my step one. I know what I want. But for the most part, it's not like I want a bigger and bigger house and I'm focused in on my clothes and I'm focused in on... I get uncomfortable focusing too much in on the physical because, well, let's don't go there. It is okay to play with the clay. Just know that it is clay. Know who you really are. Know who you really are. And know that this world of flux is just what you're playing with. Don't take it so seriously. All is well. Everything's fine. All is evolving. Everything's always working out for you. Source energy is with you at all times. If it doesn't feel like it, it's because you're not listening. Because you're banging a negative drum and then insisting on following the impulses from that negative frequency. It's no wonder that your life is turning out chaotic. Or maybe you're learning to follow positive impulses and to quiet negative momentums and to encourage positive ones. Don't judge others. Don't judge yourself. None of the forms that you are looking at speak as some sort of existential indictment to existence itself. Existence itself is fine. Thank you very much. It's been going on a long time, forever, actually. We're all in on it. It's all fine. Something that's been going on forever that all of us are there in on has to be fine. It just has to be. The alternative is just not acceptable. And it is fine. Turns out when you recognize that and allow that as a possibility, evidence comes flooding into you of the truth of it is fine. We are okay. Things are working out for us. When you look at us collectively, we are moving from lesser understanding to greater understanding. We've moved a long way in the last 100 years, and we continue to evolve because that's one of our three main driving forces is we are expanding. And there is no holding that back. It's part of what reality is just doing. It's part of the universal consciousness. Feed forward, feed back, feed into, feed. It's the holographic nature. The universe is learning. And it's learning through you. The things that you come to understand and live really matter to the universe because your information is feeding back to the wholeness. The allness knows what you know. And it is starting to, you feed it up to the field, and then at a different scale, but still there, the information is feeding what you know and what you have fed up to the field to holographically to the whole field. You have access to all of it, and all of it has access to you. It really does. And you need to lean into that and quit worrying so much about protection. Protection isn't the way to go. The way to go is to get into the center of your center and man that positive center and crank up that momentum and drive your vehicle straight to your happily ever after and dreams come true. And each and every one of you, as you do that, humanity's dreams and desires bloom. And they come into being and they co-create and co-dance with one another. That's what we need. Your desires matter. They really, really matter. Follow your bliss. Follow your desire. Follow your pure, clear desire. Your desire is for freedom. Your desire is for joy, love, kindness, clarity, efficiency, abundance, beauty. All of those things. That's the clear position. Now, you're translating those clear desires into objects that you think, well, once I get that object, then I will feel free. Once I get all the money in the bank and that fast car, then I will feel free. Or once I build that empire and don't have to go work for the man, then I will feel free, right? So it's the feeling you're going for, and your mind has translated what you think will equal that feeling. Well, that's the place where you might be wrong. That's the place where you might need to fiddle around with those thoughts and kind of massage what you believe and what you desire and all of that. Kind of start working those around, because it's possible that fleet of Lamborghinis that, first of all, you don't even believe you could get, and second of all, probably doesn't equal the freedom that you think that it does, because there's a lot of payments, and then also that business requires an awful lot of your time, to keep that running, and You maybe haven't thought it all the way through, but the clarity of the original position, the freedom, the relationship, the abundance, the joy, the efficiency, the beauty, all of that. Hold hold those vibrations. The vibration is the precursor to the material coming into being. So you really don't want to be hanging on to a negative vibration as it comes into being, because it's going to be a dragon that you don't want to be holding by the ears or the tail or whatever. You don't want to be holding on to that dragon. But if you are pursuing a negative emotion and persisting in acting, then the things that you're lining up with and the things that you start rendezvousing with, I promise you, are not going to be pleasant. You might be persisting in blaming the object of whatever it is. So maybe your lover left you for whatever reason. He wasn't feeling satisfied, or she wasn't feeling satisfied in their life, and you weren't seeing it, and they left you. Or maybe they're just mixed up and crazy, and they don't know what they want, and they didn't know a good thing when they had it, and so they left you. It doesn't matter. They left you. And you're focused on that, and you think that is why you are upset. But in actual fact, and that's how come your life is going poorly. Your life is going poorly now. Everything's falling apart at the seams. You've been thrown out of your house, and you've lost your job, or whatever. The reason that that's happening to you is not because some condition happened in the outside world. The reason that it's happening is because you are following negative impulses. We are transmitters and receivers. We are not just separate objects banging around in a meaningless world. We are transmitters and receivers to a greater field. And the impulses that we are taking from our broader perspective, when they feel bad, you're walking in directions you don't want to go. It's as simple as that. That is the meaning of your GPS, your internal guidance system. That's the meaning of it. So I've about come to the end of it. I've got this couple of more slides. I always present them just for a minute because I find this interesting. This is the 5 kleshas from Buddhist philosophy, considered to be the root cause of all suffering. And all of this, you can see how it relates to this not knowing who you are. Not knowing who you are. That fourth one there, identifying with an imaginary self, I actually see that more as, I never really could understand this. It's sort of implying that the world around you is an illusion. It isn't an illusion. It's real enough. You just may not be understanding how it's unfolding, and who you are, and how your system is trying to inform you of what's transpiring around you and what direction to move and all that. You may be misunderstanding it, but it's not an illusion. The world is really there. There is a quantum soup around you that is real enough. But when you overly identify with your expirational aspect, when you overly identify with your meat self, instead of knowing who you really are in this equation, that's very anxiety provoking for obvious reasons. That temporary expirational aspect of you is made of meat. Meat is very fragile. It does not last. It lives for a while and then it dies and then it really doesn't last. But you are made of meat, and meat can be hurt. Meat dies. Meat spoils. Meat. So don't overly identify with that side of you. It's just a little piece of you. It's part of you, but it's not you. It's just a piece of you. It's some of you. And as some of you, you can mind it. You can pay attention to it. As a matter of fact, it's the eyes. It's an important piece of you. Let's face it. But it isn't all of you. It isn't even most of you. So don't overly identify that way. And when you don't know who you are, then you don't know what's real. You start attaching to the rolling manifestation, which by its very nature is becoming and begoing, and not a stable place to plug your plug in. I feel like as as a being, we have this kind of it's sort of a metaphorical plug inside of us. And you can plug that plug in, and it needs to be plugged in somewhere, actually. I think of this plug as being located right where your I am is. When you say I am, and then follow that sentence with something, follow those two words with I am, da da da. That's where your plug is, right? So depending on how you're identifying with who you are, you've got that plug plugged in somewhere. Maybe you say, I am, who am I? I'm this temporary piece of meat. I'm only going to be here for just a minute, and then I'm winking out. I am this profession. I am such and such a gender. I live in this, I'm this nationality. I'm this shape and size and age. So you've said a lot of things identifying your physical form. Every one of those I ams is related to the world of flux. And as such, your identity itself does not feel very stable. Feel very stable. And as time rolls by, it feels less and less stable, because the forms that you're identified with as your profession and, your neighborhood and your religion and your nationality, all those things can shift in ways, and so you're wandering around the world of form, plugging your plug in all into the wrong place. Your I am should rest very securely in the formless, because you are the formless, giving rise to the form. You are the field. You are the divine matrix itself. You are made of that, and everything around you is made of that, and all of it is touching all of it. It's all aware of all of it. You are part of the living universe. You are a cell in the body of the morphogenetic field of the entire universe. And actually, you can take this in layers going out. And this, I think, is going to be the last thought I'm going to leave you with. I'm coming close to 2 hours now, so it's time for me to wind this up. As you go into your inner self and like through meditation or whatever kind of practice, you take your consciousness down into inner layers of yourself. You go down into the center of the center of the center of the center of yourself. You're finding the singularity of all singularities is where you're headed for when you go that direction. You're heading for the center of all things. And this is how it works. As you go inward into yourself, as you integrate yourself as a biological being, you connect with the morphogenetic field of the planet. When you integrate yourself at the atomic level, you connect with the solar system. At the level of the proton, you integrate with the galaxy. And when you get all the way down to the Planck level of information, you have integrated with the whole universe. And that's how that works. That little juicy thought, it was almost verbatim what I heard Nassim Haramein say to somebody. I think he was talking to, what's his name? That good-looking guy from Mind Valley. I can't remember what his name is. It was a wonderful conversation I was listening to them have, though. But I wrote that down because I thought it was beautiful. And that shows you how your internal layers of information and energy flow, how they click in click you into the morphogenetic fields of bigger and bigger and bigger. That's how these universes are. The multiverse is nested like Russian dolls. That's where all the universes are. They are embedded one within another, sort of like it's a Horton here's a Who kind of world. It's really a very, very cool universe that we have been born into. And with that, I think I'm going to leave us for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to come back into the same space and we're going to explore this topic yet again. We're going to get closer and closer to an understanding, a deep, broad understanding of who we are and how this works, and how my understanding of how this works can make my life better, and how making my life better collectively helps the whole field heal from its misalignment it has been suffering. It's the only thing wrong with us is our misalignment. We are magnificent creators, and our future is very bright. And with that, I will leave you until tomorrow. I still don't have my sign-off line. Something like, until then, I bid you peace.